Have you ever felt like your mind never truly rests? As if there's a silent storm moving behind your eyes. Even when, on the outside, you seem calm. You try to just be here, relax, not feel everything so deeply. But your mind keeps unfolding every detail, every tone, every silence. You see layers in people that others don't even notice. You love with care, think intensely, and feel without limits. And sometimes you wonder what it would be like to just live without analyzing every moment. For you, nothing is simply simple. Every look has meaning. Every word has weight. Because you're not just someone who thinks, you're a deep soul living in a shallow world. Have you ever noticed there's something different about the way you feel and interpret things? It's not overthinking. No matter how much people try to simplify it, it's almost like you have a second pair of eyes on the inside, eyes that see what isn't being said. While most people accept the surface as the truth, you've always sensed there's more beneath it. Even when you were young, you could tell when someone was sad, even if they were smiling. You never believed the "I'm fine" just because of the words. You always listened to the silence too. This depth didn't come out of nowhere. It was shaped. Maybe life put you in situations where you had to understand things quickly. Moments where you were forced to grow up before your time. It could have been an emotionally chaotic home, a love that demanded too much, or that painful realization that not everyone feels the way you do. And to protect yourself, you started watching, observing, connecting dots. Your depth began as a survival instinct. But here's the twist. That same ability became your vulnerability. It's like having a heart with hypersensitive sensors. You notice micro-expressions, tone shifts, hesitations. You pick up when someone avoids a subject. You feel when the energy in the room changes. You read the unsaid, the way some people feel the weather shift before a storm. And the world doesn't always know how to handle that. Because while many prefer to move through life on autopilot, you're constantly navigating the subtext. And look at how this shows up in everyday life. When someone tells a story, you catch the fear hiding behind the words. When a relationship starts, you already sense where it's going before it even unfolds. In conflicts, you can pinpoint exactly where the wound is, even when the other person can't. This gives you a depth that can feel isolating, because it's hard to talk about what you see when the other person hasn't learned to see it yet. And yes, your depth can be intimidating. People who live on the surface feel exposed around you, like you can see straight through them. And in some ways, you can. That's why some people pull away. They say you're too much. They say you're complicated. But the truth is, they just haven't learned to feel with that kind of clarity yet. It's not that you feel too much, it's that most of the world feels too little. And that difference creates distances that aren't easy to explain. But here's the most important part. This depth is refined emotional intelligence. It isn't a flaw. It isn't exaggeration. This heart wisdom, shaped by everything you've endured and all the times you had to rebuild yourself. And once you begin to recognize that, something shifts inside you. Because this sensitivity, the same one that once hurt you, has a much bigger purpose than just surviving. And that is exactly where your journey starts to take on a whole new meaning. When you look back, you may realize that this depth didn't start in adulthood. It began when you were still a child, during a phase when kids are supposed to just play, but you were already observing. You paid attention to faces, to silence, to the sound of doors closing a little harder than they should. While other children laughed without a care in the world, you were learning how to read the room. It's like your body already knew you had to understand the world in order to feel safe. And that's where your depth was born, not as a choice but as a necessity. Maybe your childhood was filled with moments where you had to guess the emotional weather before taking a step. You know that feeling of walking into a room and immediately sensing whether someone was sad, irritated, or distant. You didn't do that because you wanted to. You did it because it was your emotional safety system. The girl who observes has always been more mature than she looked. She learned early that asking for attention might lead to rejection, that expressing how she felt could trigger conflict. So she learned to feel first and move later, and that ability sharpened over time. You began noticing when someone's voice dropped just slightly, when a smile didn't quite reach their eyes, when a sentence had pain hidden behind it. It may look like intuition or magic, but it's emotional reading, a skill built when you're forced to survive emotional instability. You developed this hyper-awareness to avoid surprises, to stay one step ahead, to soften the impact of pain before it even arrived. But that comes with a cost, doesn't it? When you notice everything, you also feel everything. It's like having emotional antennas always turned on, picking up every signal. At a family dinner, while everyone else seems normal, you sense the tension between two people, the worry someone is hiding, the sadness no one mentions. And that can exhaust you, can drain you. It can make you feel like you're living life at a higher emotional volume than everyone else. It's not drama, it's trained sensitivity. And maybe you remember small details from childhood that suddenly make sense now. Like how you preferred listening to conversations in the living room instead of playing outside. Or how you knew you needed to stay gentle, calm, easy to handle, so you wouldn't spark tension. You became the mature child, the one who understands before speaking, who thinks twice, who feels the room before entering it. And while that protected you, it also silenced you for a long time. But here's the fascinating part. That child who observed everything has become a woman who sees beneath the surface. The very skill that once existed to protect you is now one of your greatest strengths, because being able to truly read people is rare. The only thing that matters now is learning how to use that ability for your growth, instead of only using it to avoid pain. And that is exactly where we begin to move into the next part of your journey. When you grew up, that ability to observe turned into something even deeper. Now you don't just notice emotions, you carry them. It's as if you were a sensitive field that absorbs the emotional climate of a room just by entering it. And the curious thing is that many times you don't even want to feel it, you simply feel. If someone is distressed, you feel as if it were yours. If someone is insecure, you notice it before the person even admits it. Your body reads, interprets, absorbs, and that makes you someone who always knows exactly when the other person needs care. Because of that, you automatically take on the role of emotional support in your relationships. It's not something you decide rationally, it's instinctive. You welcome, you listen, you soothe, you understand. You are the one who knows how to say the right thing when nobody else knows. The one who identifies the pain the other person hasn't even noticed yet. The one who carries the world without complaining. And on the outside, that looks like strength. But on the inside, that strength was born from constant emotional vigilance, the same that began back then. And here is a detail that almost no one sees. While you take care of everyone, who takes care of you? That question is uncomfortable, I know, because many times you don't even know how to be taken care of. You got used to being the strong one, the stable one, the sensible one. You became the person who solves situations, who holds the other person's emotional weight, who fixes the chaos. And when you need support, you hesitate. You don't want to be heavy, you don't want to be a problem, you don't want to bother. So you endure, you swallow it, you take a deep breath, you smile, and you go on. The problem is that this creates a silent emotional exhaustion, a fatigue that is not physical but from the soul. You can be sitting still and feel as if you are carrying tons, because feeling for others all the time is tiring. It's like always being switched on, always picking up emotional waves, always adjusting your energy to maintain balance. While others rest inside you, where do you rest? That is the question that few people realize you carry. And many times, this sensitivity creates a painful paradox. You deeply understand people, but feel that very few truly understand you in return. You give whole love, but receive fragmented love. You welcome with presence, but receive shallow responses. You see the other person's soul, but few see yours. That's why sometimes you feel alone even surrounded by people. It's not physical loneliness, it's emotional loneliness. The sensation of, I am here for everyone, but who is really here for me? But there is something powerful that begins to change this narrative. The moment you realize that your sensitivity does not need to be a burden, that feeling so much can become creative strength, not just strength of resistance, and that learning to receive is just as essential as learning to give. The transition begins when you start asking yourself, honestly, what would it be like if I let someone truly see me? And this is exactly what leads us to the next chapter of your journey. When you love, it's not quick, impulsive, or careless. You're not the type to throw yourself into the first spark of attention. You observe first. You feel the emotional atmosphere. You analyze the other person's depth. Because you know that love is not a game. Loving, for you, is stepping into the sacred territory of another soul. So you love slowly. But when you love fully. With presence, devotion, truth, and intensity. And this intensity, although beautiful, is not always understood by those who never learned to feel beyond the basics. You have a very refined emotional intuition. Before the person speaks, you've already understood what they feel. Before their behavior shows, you've already sensed the intention. It's as if your heart has an emotional antenna that is always active. This protects you from empty relationships, but it also exposes you to deep disappointments. Because while the other person is still trying to understand their own feelings, you've already seen everything. You've already seen the essence. You've already understood the shadow. You've already identified the limit. And this clarity can be painful when the other person can't keep up with your emotional rhythm. And there is a point that almost no one sees. Your capacity to love has been wounded before. Not just once. It was small breaks of trust throughout life, moments when you gave yourself and were not seen. So you learned not to open your whole heart right away. Your love is not designed for fast loves. It's for rare loves. For soul encounters that recognize each other in the eyes, not just in habits. For reciprocity that happens in silence, not just in words. But most of the time, what you find are people who don't know how to handle depth. People who confuse love with distraction, affection with dependency, presence with possession. People who get scared when they realize you see in them parts they themselves avoid facing. And then a pattern appears, you withdraw. Not because you're afraid to love, but because you realize your level of devotion is too big to fit into small feelings. You pull back out of wisdom, not coldness. And that withdrawal creates a quiet pain. Because you want to give yourself. You want to love. You want to live something meaningful, something that breathes truth. But you know that love without depth makes you sick. You know that being half has never worked for you. You were not born for lukewarm relationships, for shallow affections, for connections that only exist when it's convenient. Your heart asks for encounter, not decorative presence. And when the encounter does not happen, you choose silence. Because for you, loneliness is better than empty company. And it is exactly at this point in your story that a major shift begins. The moment you understand that the love you are looking for is not utopia, it is your own internal measure. And when you start recognizing yourself that way, you stop accepting anything that is not truth. This is the moment when your depth stops being protection and becomes the power of choice. And this is what we begin to talk about in the next point. In today's world, there is an almost invisible expectation placed on you. They expect you to be strong, but without showing tiredness. To be calm, even when everything is falling apart around you. To be understanding, even when no one tries to understand you. It's as if you were appointed the one who holds everything together, without anyone ever asking if you wanted that role. You became the emotional compass of your environments, the one who harmonizes, soothes, sustains. But behind this calm, there is an exhaustion that almost no one sees. Because while you are there, always present for others, adjusting your words, choosing the right moment, being careful with feelings that aren't even yours, who is taking care of yours? That's the question almost no one asks. You know that message you send to cheer someone up, even though deep down you were the one who needed someone to say, "I'm here"? Exactly. You are always offering presents, but rarely receive presents in return. This creates a silent emptiness that you learn to carry alone. And this emotional loneliness has nothing to do with a lack of people around you. It has to do with a lack of reciprocity, with the fact that you've realized many people only know how to lean, but don't know how to hold. It's as if you were the house where everyone rests, but when you need rest, there's nowhere to go. You got used to being the safe harbor, but forgot that even lighthouses need maintenance. And while you light the way for others, no one notices when your light begins to flicker. This tiredness doesn't show on the face. It shows in the soul. It's a weight that accumulates slowly in the details. You start to feel drained after long conversations. You start avoiding certain environments because you know you will absorb everything. You start choosing silence because explaining what you feel is too complex. Until the moment when you realize that you are tired, not of feeling, but of feeling alone. And this tiredness has a name: chronic empathy. Chronic empathy happens when your emotional system never rests. When you are always on, always picking up signals, always caring, always being gentle. It's as if you had an emotional muscle that never relaxes. And the modern world, with its rush, its noise, and its superficiality, was not built for people who feel so deeply. You perceive everything, but very few people perceive you. And this uneven perception wears you down. But there is something important about to happen in your story. The moment when you start to recognize your own limit. When you realize that feeling deeply is not just a gift, it is a responsibility that deserves care. And when you learn to direct this sensitivity toward yourself, something begins to change. That is when sensitivity stops being exhaustion and becomes healing. And this is exactly the point we are about to enter. Healing was never about feeling less. It was about feeling without blaming yourself for it. You don't need to dim what you feel to be accepted. Your heart isn't fragile. It's refined. What the world calls intensity is, in truth, your rare ability to perceive the invisible. It's the gift of reading the soul of things. The problem is that they taught you to see this as weakness, when in reality, it's what makes you unforgettable. You don't need to live trapped inside your mind all the time. The way back isn't rational, it's through the body. Coming back to your body is coming back home. It's taking a deep breath, allowing yourself to be here, present, alive, feeling the now without needing to analyze everything. When you live through the body, feeling stops being about control and becomes about freedom. And in that presence, pain turns into wisdom. Your depth is not a mistake to be corrected. It's your authentic identity. Proves that you didn't harden, even when the world tried to make you cold. It's what makes your presence shift a room, what makes people open up around you, what gives your life meaning. You are not too much. You are whole. And whole women always unsettle those who are still living in halves. When you stop punishing yourself for feeling, something inside you aligns. Because what you always called weight is the same thing the universe calls purpose. You were born to see deeply, to heal, to inspire. Your sensitivity is what reminds the world that truth still exists. and that in itself is power. You don't need to shrink yourself to be accepted or hide what you feel to be loved. You can be deep and still be light, strong and still sensitive. You are not too much. You are too rare to be understood by just anyone. And the one who is meant to understand you will recognize you by the soul, not by the surface. If this message touched something inside you, like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because there is so much more the world still needs to remember about the power of being who you truly are. And before you go, stay with me, because the next video will show you what happens when a woman finally stops hiding from herself.